So what we're going to talk about are plugins. I asked last time if anyone had any requests, and so someone requested that we talk about WordPress plugins and what they are. Just briefly, as I mentioned, I'm Tara, and I've worked with WordPress for a long time. I do a lot of things with WordPress. I also have a podcast called Mindful School Marketing with Aubrey Bursch, and we talk about how to be a better marketer for your school by being more mindful in general in your life. So we talk about cool things like the Enneagram and stuff like that. So you can check out the Mindful School Marketing podcast. I'm a mom, and so I've been really involved with my kids' education over the years. They're grown up now, but I kind of combine my passion for schools and education and nonprofits with my work with WordPress. Okay, so plugins, if you don't know what they are, it's basically software that is used to extend the functionality of a WordPress website. So you might think about apps on your phone. Plugins are sort of similar to that. They're created by different developers, and they are there to do different things. I often say, if you were to Google, can my WordPress site do X? Most likely you'll find there's somebody who has had that same question and who has hired a developer or who is a developer, and they've created a plugin that will solve that particular need. So basically there's nothing that you can't do with WordPress because of the fact that it's open source and people can develop this functionality, these plugins. So there are thousands and thousands of free plugins available in what's called the WordPress repository. So if you go to wordpress.org and at the top, you'll see plugins. That's what this looks like right here. That is a list of all of the plugins which have been vetted by WordPress developers. So they only let in plugins that are tested. That doesn't mean they're all good, but they passed like a bare minimum. If there's a plugin that does something bad, they will take it out and they'll notify you that that's happened. So there are also premium plugins. A lot of the plugins in the WordPress repository are they're all free, but they may have a premium add-on that you can purchase to do more, because these are developed by people who have to make a living. So they put free stuff out there because it solves their own need. But a lot of times they're also trying to make a living, so they'll add on extra functionality. And how do you choose them? Similar to how you would choose a restaurant or a hotel or something like that, you will get the reviews. Within the WordPress repository, there are reviews that people leave for the plugin. So you want to look just like you would look on Google or Yelp for 5 stars. You also want to look at how many people have downloaded it and how active it is. And then you also want to look at when the last time it was updated. So you want to make sure that people are paying attention to it and supporting it. You look at those things and then you decide there may be more than one plugin that will do what you need. So you'll choose the one that maybe looks like it has the most support and is the best fit. Let's talk about some specific things that plugins can do for a school website. So the first thing is forms. You may use a third party for your applications, or you may use a form plugin on your WordPress website for your applications, your contact form, an inquiry form, basically any form that you can have on your website. You can build it with a plugin that is made to make it easy for you to create these forms and to create a conditional or a response when someone fills out a form. So they're built in order for you to get information from someone. They're submitting information into your website that you're collecting, and then you're getting notified about that. You've seen forms on every website. There are many, many form plugins that are free for WordPress. There are basic forms. The most popular is called Contact Form 7, and that is used on tons and millions of websites. It does not keep a copy of the submission by default. So you want a form plugin that is going to allow you to have a record of what people do kept in your database, as well as a form plugin that will notify you. Most of these plugins have premium versions. We use a form plugin called Gravity Forms, which does not have a free option. Gravity Forms has been around for a long time. They've just done a major update to their interface, and they have add-ons. You can use a Gravity form as a payment opportunity. So if you have a form on your website for people to buy a brick for your school, you can actually have them complete the payment through this form without having to add in a shopping cart or something really complicated that you probably don't need for your school. So we recommend Gravity forms. It also allows you to do conditional notifications. So that means if you have a contact form that maybe has a drop down in it that allows people to select what they're inquiring about. Do you want to hear from admissions? Are you looking to make a donation, a volunteer? If they choose one of those options, they can then, that notification can go to whoever is in charge of that. So you can tell the form plugin to send the notification to your admissions person if that's what the person has selected. Another type of plugin that we use on almost every school website and a lot of nonprofit websites is an events plugin. Sometimes we find that schools have been using the post module within WordPress, but what happens then is that it stays in the news section. So it happened last July and it still shows up in a Google search and they didn't put the year on it. And so someone might think that it's still happening. So we recommend using an events plugin for a few reasons. One, it's created for events. So it is set up to display as an event with your date and your time and your venue. It also will auto expire when the date has passed. So this means you don't have to worry about remembering to go in and delete it or change it after it's passed. You can still write a blog post about your event that happened, but you're not going to have an RSVP or a link or something like that in it. So events plugins are very, very useful for schools for that reason. There are a few that we use depending on the needs of the school for how the event is displayed, whether they want to be able to collect RSVPs and a few other things. We've started using a plugin called Modern Events Calendar, and there's a free version, and then there's a pro version that allows you to do more things like during COVID, it allows you to have a private Zoom link that gets emailed out to your people who sign up. So it's not out there for public. The interface for Modern Events Calendar is very nice. It looks very nice on the front end. The most popular events plugin is called the Events Calendar. It's made by a company called Modern Tribe. And we use that as well. It works well with the page builder that we use called Beaver Builder. I have not had a great experience with their support. And a lot of their add-ons I find are overpriced. So it's not my favorite, but you sort of feel a little bit pigeonholed into using it because it is widely used and it can do a lot. And then the Events Manager is the bare bones. We use that because we can customize with some code, very simple code, how it displays very simply. So I'll just show you a couple of examples. This is Modern Events Calendar. So this is pretty much out of the box. We've done a little bit of styling customization, but it looks really nice. It has a countdown built in. You can put in your featured image. It has an automatic add to calendar feature. It's just very clean and nice looking. Their support has also been pretty good. And then this is the events calendar. And this has a lot of functionality built in. So we can conditionally display by month, we can display by location in a list page. So it shows all of the summer camps. And then when you go into the individual event, you can make it look really nice as well. And then this is the Events Manager, which is super simple, just very straightforward, the date, the time, a little blurb, and a register button. So they all basically do the same thing. I would recommend looking at Modern Events Calendar if you're looking for an events plugin and starting there, because I do think that it offers a lot. It's growing and it offers a lot of functionality and a good look out of the box. Another type of plugin that's popular for schools is a social feed. Some page builders have this built in. So there is an add-on for Beaver Builder called Ultimate Add-ons that has an Instagram feed, which we've had issues with lately. So we usually use this called Smash Balloon. The advantage of having a plugin like this is that you can feed in your Instagram or your Facebook feed. So you don't have to worry about going in and updating your website all the time. So for clients who don't want to go in there and add photos, Instagram does a really nice job and people are updating their photos on Instagram really well. You can feed in your Instagram feed using this plugin. You just connect it with a click to your Instagram and it will display the feed for you. You can tell it how many columns, how many to show. It's very easy to do. It can slow down your performance. So I would check your website before you put it on just to see how fast it loads and then check after. I see the issue less with Instagram than with the Facebook feed. That seems to have more of a drag. So this is free and it's really easy to use. You might consider putting it on the bottom of your homepage just to show some really recent photos. And then while we're on the topic of images, there are some plugins for WordPress that really help with your images, and images are key to your website. Having great photography is really important, but it can also be really harmful. I talked about Instagram or Facebook feeds slowing down your performance. If your images are too big or they're not optimized for the web, your website will suffer. It will get penalized by Google. When we look at sites that are slow to load, almost every single time, the main culprit is images that are too big. People take an image from their phone or they get sent an image from someone's phone and they just upload it to the site. They don't crop it or optimize it. And you look at it and it's 7 megabytes big. That's very, very big. Or it's like 5,000 pixels wide. My big, huge screen is only 2,000 pixels wide. So you're never going to have a need for an 8,000 pixel wide photograph or an 8 megabyte photograph. You should aim to have your photographs under a megabyte. The ideal situation is for you to take your photograph before you upload it to your site and use something like Photoshop or Canva or PicMonkey to crop it to be the size that you want it to be, so you don't have a lot of extra space, and to optimize it to 72 dots per inch. That can be a lot of work. There's also a website called tinypng.com where you can upload your photo and it will automatically squish it, compress it to 72 DPI, and it will show you how much it saved you in terms of size. You can do all of those things, and you may have some staff who still go in and they'll still upload it right to the site. So what you can do is use a plugin that will automatically smush the picture when it gets uploaded. There's one called EWWW. There's one called Smush. There are several. There's one called Short Pixel. Any of them are pretty good. You usually have to subscribe and you get a certain number of compressions per month with your subscription. But it's well worth it if it's saving your site from really having a slow, sluggish load time and having poor performance. These are free, but you do have to pay usually some minimal amount. We use Short Pixel most of the time, which I'm not showing here. We've purchased a license for a certain number of compressions per month. I don't think any of them are bad. So you can look at the price and see which ones kind of fit your budget.
Does it only smush or compress on uploads, or will it take your current photos and
you can do a bulk? Yes, you can go back and it will go back in time and you can bulk optimize your current images. So Matt, when you use the bulk optimizer, that's where that purchase that I mentioned, where you can purchase a certain amount, you might run out, because if you have 1,000 pictures on your site and you've purchased 500, it will say you've used up your space for the month.
Right.
You can selectively go in as well. And when I'm done, I'm happy to log into a site and show you what it looks like. You can go in and look at your images as a list instead of as thumbnails. And when you do that, it will show you which ones are already optimized, and it will show you how much you'll save by optimizing them. So you might selectively choose the ones that need the most compression.
Would you recommend doing that in a test site or to make sure, or does it?
Most of them have an option where it will save the original image, and they also have options of different compression. So there's lossy, glossy, and one more, I can't remember. So you can see if your main hero image, and by compressing it, it gets blurry, you can revert back to the original. Okay. So, but with any plugin, it's not a bad idea to do a backup before you start playing with it in case something bad happens.
Right.
Okay. So on the subject also of images are galleries. Now we talked about the Instagram, which sort of creates putting that feed in creates an automatic gallery on your site. But there are some plugins that are made for image galleries and for sliders that will do more. WordPress has a gallery built in. So when you go to insert a photo, you can actually insert a gallery, but it's sort of limited in terms of the design and the functionality. Some of these fancier gallery plugins have things like Lightbox. So when you click on it, it opens in a bigger view. And they also have slider versions. So I'm going to say something about sliders, which is that in the website world, sliders are a no-no. We know from research that people do not sit and watch sliders. And not only do they slow down your site, but now one of Google's analysis metrics is what's called a content layer shift. So it's looking for things that move. And if you have too many things that move, it dings you in your score. That's not to say you want your website to only be built for Google score, but it is something that's made for user experience. So we don't recommend sliders, especially if they have multiple messages. What used to happen is that people would say, we want all of our important things. We have 4 core values. We want them all at the top of our website. We're going to put them in a slider and they're all going to be there at the top. But you know what actually happens? People see the first one and they scroll down and they never see 2, 3, and 4. So it's much better to put your 4 core values, boom, 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 vertically down your page than in a carousel, because they're going to actually see it as they're scrolling through. So we don't recommend sliders. With that said, for schools, we often do a fading slideshow of photographs, and that's to show different ages, to show the diversity of your school. So just understand that if you put 10 pictures, probably picture number 10 will never be seen. So I say all of that, and then I tell you that there are good slider plugins that you can use. Beaver Builder has it built in, a background slider, so you don't actually need a slider plugin unless you want to do something fancier with it.
We have a picture of some families with like a sentence from them, but it's a slider.
Yeah, those are okay. Just know that people are probably not going to see them all. For that, you can use, actually, there are special sliders just for testimonials. So you may be using a testimonial slider plugin. We do use some of those. We also will sometimes use them if there's a carousel of logos of supporters for an event or something like that, but not for your key messages that you want really to communicate. Most of these image plugins have a free version, and then you pay for the premium version. And just a couple extra things to mention for plugins. Last month, we talked about SEO, and there is a plugin called Yoast, which I talked about if you were here last month. There are some other SEO plugins as well. We mostly use Yoast. There's another one called SEO Press that is getting a lot of good reviews. And then there's one called All-in-One SEO. I'm happy, if you don't have it, to share the video from last month's Lunch and Learn, where we talked about what these plugins do and what they don't do. So they don't do the work for you. They are tools to help you optimize your site and to learn, but they are very helpful. And they do put some content into your site that helps Google know what you're about. There are also several Google Analytics plugins. So you can manually enter your Google Analytics code into your website. But it's very easy if you use a plugin like Google Analytics Monster Insights, which is the one I have here. Google now has its own called Site Kit. You connect that to your Google Analytics account, and then in the dashboard of your WordPress site, you can see your Google Analytics information at a glance. I've mentioned performance a couple of times. In some ways, it's almost impossible to get your WordPress site to be perfect because it's built with a database, and the more plugins you add onto it, the more potential it has to be slowed down because there's a lot of different pieces of code. So you have JavaScript for this plugin and JavaScript for this one and CSS for this plugin, all different kinds of code, and it's all separate. So a lot of times if you do an analysis of your site, you'll see it'll say that you should combine your code. There are some plugins that will combine your code and do some other things to try to optimize your site and to try to have it load faster. They do really work. Sometimes they can make it worse, and sometimes they can break your site. that only means that they'll break it till you change a setting or deactivate it. So WP Rocket you pay for, it's premium. Auto Optimize is free and there's a premium version of it. I use both. I've used both on different sites. You just want to go in and kind of gingerly turn on different settings and test and see if your site goes faster when you have these settings turned on, or if it gets a better score. There's a website called GT Metrics, which is one of many different speed test websites that you can use to see how your website is performing. And then I'll just wrap up with, I mentioned page builders. We use Beaver Builder. We also use Elementor. They're two very popular page builders that allow you to really customize the look of your site without having to do a lot of code. They allow our clients to go in and easily make edits. We build templates and things using these tools, and it's very effective. There's also a great plugin that we've used on some school sites called TablePress. Tables on a website can be very tricky, especially when it comes to mobile responsiveness. It's a kind of older type of code that you use to build a table, but a lot of the content, sometimes there's content like a tuition fee schedule or something like that, which really presents well in a table. And it's very hard to code tables. It can be very confusing. So this plugin, it's been around for a long time and we use it on a few different sites. It's called TablePress. And you can also, it also has a mobile responsive version. So I recommend that. And that's an overview of plugins. If you have a phone and you want to scan either of these, I think we still haven't updated the date for the June Lunch and Learn, but we will update that. You can check that after this session. We will update it. It will be June 24th. And then also there is, if you scan the code on the right, you can sign up for a free one-on-one with me to go over any plugin questions, Google Analytics, anything that we can help you with. Elaine.
Do you have any recommendations for a staff directory plugin?
So there are some directory plugins. What we do for staff is we create what's called a custom post type. It's basically like a blog post, but we can specify what fields we want. So I think some themes come with like a team section that is basically a custom post type. We build it ourselves. I have not used a team type plugin. I'm sure there are some team staff plugins that do basically what we customize. Right. So you just want to make sure you look again at those ratings, at the reviews, look at how many people have downloaded it, and also look at when the last time it was used. When you're in that WordPress repository, you can also look at the support so you can see what people have been asking or complaining about and if they've been answered. So, I mean, keep in mind, again, sometimes these are free and they're things that people have, they're dedicating their free time to support. So sometimes it might take them longer. Let me share the screen with you. So this is the repository. So you could search in here for, we go into plugins and we can search for a staff plugin and see what we can come up with. So here's a staff list WordPress plugin. And we can see here, it was last updated 1 week ago. It has 4,000 plus installations. It has pretty good reviews. And then you can go in here to the support forum. It has a 4 out of 4 issues resolved. So that seems like it's a pretty well supported, has a little video. Oftentimes it will have screenshots up here, but here it's showing you live previews. So this one seems, you know, like something that could work. You just want to, you can test it out and try it. That's how you'd go about it. When you're actually in the back end of your website, if you haven't done this before, you don't have to go to that WordPress repository. You can go into the back end of your site and go to plugins, add new. And that's basically searching this same thing, but it's searching it from within here. So if I look here, that will come up, and they will usually rank them in order of how popular they are. So here you can see that one comes up first.
I'm wondering about the blogs. We're using the WordPress version instead of Beaver Builder, which, for a variety of reasons, but we decided to, because we had old blogs, we wanted to migrate to the new site. It was just easier to keep using that. So, but I'm debating whether or not we should continue that, or if there's a way to make sure the blogs from WordPress are the best they can be.
So they're up here in posts. You probably have it in the settings down here where you tell WordPress the post page is this page, and it just, based on whatever Astra has built into it, it displays it in maybe not the way you want it displayed. So what you can do is purchase for Beaver Builder. There is another aspect of Beaver Builder called Beaver Themer.
Okay.
And what that lets you do is it lets you build basically custom layouts without having to write PHP code. So you can either do an archive page or a single page. So you can see on my website, I've created a themer layout. I created a single blog post, so it's a single post. And then there's also an archive page. So I can look and see what my archive page looks like. You edit it just like any Beaver Builder page. So it allows you to go in here and customize how it looks. There are lots of different options. So that will allow you to do both the archive page and the single page.
So it's basically you're creating a template within Beaver Builder.
And you can even, if you have your blog posts categorized in a certain way, you can actually go into the settings and you can specify, I only want to show blog posts that have the category of news. And then you can have another page that says, I only want to show posts that have a category of staff or, whatever. So you can really drill down and customize the look of each thing. This is also how we would customize a staff page and a staff single page for each staff person with their bio, as well as an overall page. You can use this Beaver Themer to do that as well. Yeah.
Follow-up question. What's your take on pop-ups?
So we do use them on some specific sites when there is a reason to do it and something important to be done. For schools, I think they shouldn't be overused. They do annoy people. What we often do for schools is we have what we call an alert bar at the top that only shows when there's an announcement, like when school is closed for weather or when there's a big event coming up. And that top bar only shows when there's news instead of having a pop-up. Because oftentimes if you have that pop-up and it's related for your school, if it's related to your enrolled families, people who are coming to your site who aren't enrolled are going to get interrupted in their process. If it's a message about an open house upcoming, your enrolled families are going to be interrupted with that message. So for schools, I don't think that pop-ups are the best option unless there's a really specific function, or you put it on a page like it's on your parent corner page. And you have a pop-up saying, parent teacher conferences tonight or something like that.
I have an exit intent on the admissions page.
That's good. And do you have people signing up to join your list? Is that what the exit intent is? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, so there are some pop-up plugins. We use Pop-Up Maker, and the premium version of that you can purchase has an exit intent pop-up.
Okay.
I'm going to show you another WordPress trick that's unrelated to plugins or anything else. But what we find is that as much as I absolutely love WordPress and it's how I make my living and how I spend my days, there's a lot of overwhelming stuff that happens in the dashboard of WordPress. And so in case you're not familiar with this, and in case you too are distracted and annoyed by a lot of the stuff that shows up here, you can customize what shows. So if you click this little screen options up here at the top, that will show you what the different widgets are that are available. And you might not really want them. Like you may not really care about upcoming WordPress events. So you just uncheck that box. And then you can also drag and drop this stuff. So for example, if I want to see how many forms have been submitted, I can go over here and see this in my form widget. I can see what my SEO, what's happening with my SEO here, but I really don't need this here anymore. So I can hide it, I can move it. There are different things that I can do. So that's just a little tip if you don't know it. A lot of times people don't, and it can make your experience better because you can access things really quickly from your dashboard.
It's funny what you said about Yoast, because we
Yeah.
have Yoast Premium,
Uh-huh.
but it requires a lot of time. What would be like the biggest bang for our buck if I was going to say use an hour here and there, maybe over the summer, like redirects, or what do you think? Because I don't have a lot of time for.
So for Yoast, one of the things also, as I showed you how you can customize with screen options in your dashboard, you can also customize what shows in your posts and your pages. So if you go in here, you can see it's showing me green and orange, my Yoast score. You can customize what shows up in these columns. And at a glance, then you can see maybe which pages don't have a meta description written or don't have an SEO title written. These are the things that are really easy to do with an SEO plugin like Yoast, but a lot of people don't do it. So you can set in your general settings of Yoast, you can set a default. You can see sometimes it shows the same information. But I recommend, if you really want to do the very basics with an SEO plugin like Yoast, it's go into at least your top pages and make sure that you have customized your SEO title and your meta description. So on our top pages, we've done that here. And again, I'll be happy to share the recording from the last session where I showed how to do that, but it's basically within the editing section of your page or your post down at the bottom in this Yoast box, where you can put in, if you want to try to optimize for a term, you can do that here. But that's not telling Google anything. Google doesn't see this. This is just guiding you to tell you where you can use that term more effectively. Google has no idea that that's what it's about. I could say I'm about purple elephants. If I'm not using that in my content, it serves no purpose. So that's just a tool. But this actually is what appears in a Google search. So that's why I say go in and make sure you've customized your title and your meta description to try to be more conversion oriented, to tell people what you're about and give them a call to action or something like that. I'm the total cobbler with no shoes with my own website here that I'm showing you behind the scenes here, but that's, but we do try to make sure we've at least done that with Yoast. And using Yoast, if you're not using Yoast local, I recommend that you do that. They have some great schema, which is what Google looks at, that will automatically add into your content, into the code behind the scenes under the hood. So Yoast local is a good thing for a school to use. And they have some great blog posts. They have great content on how to use their tools. So Yoast is a very powerful plugin. It's the top plugin downloaded, I think, in the repository. The premium version is good because if you delete any posts on your site, it will alert you that you need to do a redirect. I heard you mention that, and I've talked about that on a lot of podcasts. It's a big pet peeve of mine. We've taken over sites that, a designer has gone in and redone, and the client tells them, oh, we've got all these pages we don't want anymore, and they'll delete all these pages and they won't do redirects. And then their Google Analytics is a mess and they're tanked because they've deleted all of these URLs that become 404 errors. So Yoast Premium does take care of that sort of for you.
Yeah. Well, it sort of does, right? You still have to.
You have to set it up.
Go and do each one by one.
Yes, but it will alert you and let you do it at the same time instead of keeping a record of it. We use a plugin called Redirection, which I didn't put in my plugin list because it's kind of technical, but since you seem to know what redirections are, the Redirection plugin, you can also set up to do automatic or to alert you as well. So That's a free plugin, whereas Yoast is you have to pay for. These are custom post types that I talked about that we have. So we create these ourselves, and then that allows us to display it in our own way. And we use a plugin for that called Pods. It's called Pods. That allows you to build custom post type. I'm getting more technical here, but that allows us to create another version of posts. It sort of serves like a category, but it's its own post type, and you can make custom fields. So if it's a staff custom post type, we can say, okay, when somebody goes in here to add a new staff person, they need to add an image, their bio, their job title, their LinkedIn link. You can make it so that that automatically is in there. And that's probably what your staff plugin will do as well. The same kind of idea, but you can build it yourself if you wanted to.
Oh, okay.
Or if you have developers doing WordPress sites for you, they may be using something like Pods or something called advanced custom fields, which allow them to create that customized experience for you with your content on the back end. So a lot of WordPress agencies and developers use that.
Thank you.
Security plugins, there's one called WordFence, which we use. There's a free version of that. There's another one called iThemes Security, which is pretty good too. It depends on your hosting, and it depends on your level of comfort with how your websites are set up. We don't, by default, we don't put security plugins on because we use hosting companies that are pretty secure and processes and themes that are pretty secure. But that brings me to one of the really important things about plugins, and that is that you need to update them. So we do this for our clients for websites that we've built, but it's sort of like apps on your phone that need updates. But with WordPress, a lot of times you might even get an alert saying such and such plugin, there's a vulnerability has been discovered, and so you need to go update it right away. You want to make sure that you're checking at least weekly to make sure that your WordPress plugins are updated. And hopefully you're on good hosting that takes a backup every night, so that if you update and it gets stuck or something breaks, you can revert to the old version. Some very rarely. I think in my 11, 12 years of doing this, I've probably had 5 times where a plugin has messed up a site, or a plugin update has messed up a site, and I had to revert. It does not happen often. I appreciate your joining me. Thank you so much. I'd love to get some feedback from you, so feel free to drop me an email and let me know if there's something that you'd like me to do differently or you want to learn more about. And I really am always available for questions, so I want to be a resource for you. I love WordPress and I love solving problems, so feel free to reach out anytime. Thank you very much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you so much.